was born in Santa Rosa. He actually works at the rec center. And he got his education in political science and history from UC Davis. That was his bachelor. Then his master's at Clemson University as a counselor of education. He has worked at UC Davis, Clemson, Hawaii Pacific University, and now at Sonoma State University, and in their respective rec centers in varying capacities. So please give me a round of applause for Ryan Walsh.
All right. Hey there, everybody. Can you hear me okay? Thanks for being here, and thanks for having me today. Like Bobby said, my name's Ryan, and I work over at the Rec Center at Sonoma State here. Today we're going to cover Chapter 12, Thriving Together. So the purpose of today is actually pretty simple. We're basically going to learn how to be better teammates. So pretty simple in theory, but that actually can be a little harder, so we're going to get into some details about how to do that. The format for today, I'm going to share my story, not too many specifics, but more some general advice that you can use to apply to your life and your teams. And then per Alvin's advice, I'm not going to go through the chapter section by section, really specific, but more capture the spirit of the chapter and kind of define what leadership is and what teamwork is. And then lastly, Bobby's handing out a reflection sheet there. The front side, you can take notes and fill that out as we go. There's going to be a video. Some Q&A you can answer. The back side, if we have time, is the wellness wheel, and we're going to take a few minutes at the end if you're still around and fill out that reflection sheet. So a little bit about me, kind of like Bobby said, I've worked at all these different schools. I'm originally from Santa Rosa, so I kind of did a big circle. UC Davis, Clemson for my grad work, Hawaii Pacific for a little bit, and now back in Sonoma County at Sonoma State. So those are the teams I've been on. Most of them have all been at rec centers. So as you can see there, UC Davis as both a student and a staff member, Clemson as a graduate student, and then as a full-time staff, Hawaii and now Sonoma. Those are the work teams I've been a part of. As far as the personal teams I've been a part of, my family team, which is very important to me, family and friends. Then I played a lot of sports growing up, so I have a lot of leadership and teamwork experiences through sports as well. So that's basically my work life. Now I want to share a little bit of my personal life so you can get to know me. I still love sports. I love running. I love hiking. There's me in Hawaii on a hike. I love nature, taking pictures. I love disc golf. I love basketball and basically any sports in the rec center. I basically just love sports and love being active and love being outdoors. And then my personal life, part of the reason why I left Hawaii was obviously to work at Sonoma State, but also to help my family out. So there's my sister, my older sister and her two kids. Kiara is this one right here. She just turned 7 and Adara is 2. And my sister's a single mom, so basically been helping out as an uncle and helping out raise the kids, which is, if you get a chance, I'm sure some of you have nieces and nephews and little brothers, but it's very, very rewarding. Okay, so that's basically me in a nutshell. As far as the presentation, we have 3 simple learning outcomes for you guys today. Number 1, we'll be able to understand and identify positive strategies for teamwork, the theme of the chapter. Number 2, leadership. And lastly, wellness. And to me, all 3 of these tie in together. So yeah, just be aware of that. So I'm going to start, we'll go back to the very beginning of time for this. But basically, teamwork is natural for human beings. And teamwork is really inside of us and in our DNA. So humans have a longing to feel connected. Can you guys hear me okay? Okay. So humans have a longing to feel connected. Humans love having a common goal, working together, because teams basically give humans a sense of purpose. So humans has helped us survive, and literally the reason why we're all here at Sonoma State sitting in these seats is because of teamwork. Humans aren't the only ones. Animals also depend on teamwork. So there's a picture of some meerkats. They both hunt together and also defend together. You see there's a rattlesnake attacking them. Wolves also have super good emotional intelligence, and they can kind of tell what the other is feeling just by looking at them. So it's really good for communication and teamwork. And then there's some ducks up there. I'm sure you guys are all familiar with the flying V formation. But basically, ducks can travel up to 70% further as a team than they would be on their own. So it's kind of cool. That being said, it's important to realize that not all teams will thrive, and that there are many variables and factors that can allow for either the success or failure of a team. The good news is much of it is in our control, and that's what we're going to talk about today. But before we get into the good stuff, I definitely want to cover the bad stuff and kind of take a look at what a bad team looks like. So number one, I think this is the most simple, yet sometimes the hardest, and that's communication. So poor communication can really hurt your team. If you have someone who's passive aggressive, if you have members of the team who bring drama or gossip to the table, or just lack of in-person communication. I think the world we live in today with the smartphones and the technology, sometimes that in-person communication, which is really important, can get lost. Also, unbalanced workload. So if you have someone on a team who's doing too much, or you have someone on a team who's doing too little, that can affect it. And then again, poor leadership, especially when it comes to delegation. Some leaders, take on too much for themselves and don't delegate enough. Other leaders maybe micromanage and maybe aren't doing enough. So really trying to find that balance is important for your team. Next up, negative energizers. Number one, they exist. Every school I've been at great, UC Davis, great institutions, great, awesome teams. We accomplished a lot, but there's always been that negative energizer. They're going to be there no matter what. And so first, let's define them. So a negative energizer is someone who brings down the group, reduces team morale, or causes unnecessary drama or distractions. And really, I think the worst part of that is they're taking time and energy away from the team, and they're taking away productivity and from the team members who are trying to do good work. So we know they exist, and it's unfortunate, but there fortunately are ways to counter that. So number one, my advice for you guys is to be a positive, energize yourself, always bring a good attitude. Number two, if you're comfortable, call them out and sit down and have that conversation. We're trying to change your behavior, so give them that feedback. If you're not comfortable, ask for help, ask your supervisor, ask for a third party to come in and help. And then lastly, I think the most important part is kind of don't add fuel to their fire. So, they're going to want to suck you in and get you involved with their dramas, but you got to learn to say no and kind of try to rise above that. Rise above is actually one of my personal mantras in life, and that's basically don't stoop to the level they're at, because again, they want to bring you down, and they're going to try and get you there, but instead rise above. And there's a quote by Einstein that says, "You can't problem on the same level that it was created. You have to rise above to the next level." So, again, trying to remember that I think is really important. Next up, I want to talk about the ego. The ego to me is a concept I'm still trying to master myself, and by no means do I have it figured out. I think the most important thing with the ego is just being aware of it in general. But first, let's define it. So the ego is basically the I. It's the social self or the personality that ourselves and other people identify us as. And the ego is all about success and results and status. That being said, there really is two sides to the ego. There's the good side and the bad side, and so I think we should cover both of those as well. So what is the good part of the ego, right? The good part of the ego helps us pursue our dreams, achieve our goals, and get things done. So in a lot of ways, the ego is good for us. It's necessary. It motivates us, and it helps us try to thrive and try to succeed. Then there's the other side of the ego. It's actually really not that it's bad. It's more that it's misguided. And so what happens is the ego creates certain emotions within us, like jealousy, being possessive, making us anxious, judging other people, making us self-conscious. In reality, the ego is trying to protect us, right? It's trying to help us survive, trying to help us succeed, but sometimes it manages to do so in unhealthy ways. So again, the ego is a complicated thing. We all have one. It's definitely, again, good for us in some senses, but I think my best advice, especially for teams, is just to basically check your ego at the door and basically be aware of it and be aware of your teammates' ego so that it doesn't take over the team. So those are kind of the negative or the bad team traits. Now I want to talk about the positive team traits. Number one, again, this is the simplest, the most easiest thing in the world in theory, but in practice it's pretty difficult, and that's honest communication and healthy communication and just being honest with each other. Just sitting down and telling your team member or your supervisor how you feel could be the easiest thing in the world. It can go a long ways, but sometimes that's hard to do. Again, going back to a shared workload, finding a balance so all team members feel involved and everyone's carrying their load equally is important. And then, good teams also hold each other accountable no matter what to get that end result. And then lastly, again, a very simple truth: team members get along. So team members, basically good thriving teams don't have drama and they don't have social cliques. So I want to talk about some strategies for success so that you and that we can be a good team in the teams that we exist in. Number one advice for me that helps a lot is changing the meeting location. So, it's a long semester, it's a long year, things can get monotonous. So, try to meet in different places, especially when the weather's good. Try to meet outside, and nature can really help. Team bonding, trying to get to know your coworkers on an outside level, also really important. And then again, something really simple but can be hard is basically treating everyone equal. Treating everyone, basically on the same rate. And this includes everyone, so not just your friends on the staff, not just the boss. Basically treating everyone the same is really important. And then lastly, this is some advice that a mentor gave to me, and that's love each other for our quirks and basically trying to understand each other. So rather than trying to judge each other or try to change each other, or, if someone's really extrovert, you don't understand why, or someone's really quiet, you don't understand why. Rather than trying to change them, just try to love them for who they are. And I think that can really go a long way with getting along with people. There's also some really awesome team assessment tools out there. Has anyone heard the SWOT analysis? So SWOT analysis is basically strengths, weaknesses, opportunities, and threats. And you can do this for each individual team member, or you can do it for the team as a whole itself. But also taking any kind of personality or assessment can really help you understand each other. Again, if you have someone who's extroverted, someone who's introverted, and basically figuring out strengths and who's good at what and maybe who's not good at what, it can really help your team. The chapter also talks about the PERMA model. So PERMA stands for positive emotions, engagement, relationships, meaning, and achievement. I think, honestly, the simplest way for me to define this is that if you do the first four, if you work together, if you get along with your team members and you genuinely care about them, if you create purpose and value in your team, then number 5 is going to happen naturally. Then you're going to accomplish something and you're going to reach all your goals. I think as a society, we try to get to the 5th one right away and we focus our energy right on just being successful. But if you kind of flip that and put your energy and effort into the first 4, into being positive and to being a good person, then the 5th one's just going to come naturally. So I think remembering that is important as well. And lastly, the chapter specifically, Fredrickson talks about cultivating positivity. So reframing negativity, reframing stress in your work life. For me, a good one at the rec center when stuff's going down and it gets really busy, I look at my coworkers and I say, this is happening and it's stressful, but we're in it together. Another one that I try to remind myself is basically just to be grateful to have a job, be grateful, to live in a first world country, be at Sonoma State and all those things. That can, I think, really go a long way. The chapter also talks about cultivating gratitude. So another thing we do at the rec center when we have staff meetings, before we get into any business, before we get into any shift changes or anything, we do props. We basically go popcorn style around the classroom, and anyone can say something positive about somebody if they helped them out, they played good in an IM soccer game, they covered a shift, and I think that can really go a long way of creating that positive culture in your team. And then lastly, the chapter talks about basically making a conscious effort to be grateful every day. Again, a simple truth, something easier said than done. I try to remind myself to be grateful, but it's hard in the busy world that we live in. And so I'm going to play a quick 5-minute TED Talk video for you guys on how to remember to be grateful both in your team and just every day in life.
This is just another day in your life. It's not just another day. It's the one day that is given to you today. It's given to you. It's a gift. only gift that you have right now, and the only appropriate response is gratefulness. If you do nothing else but to cultivate that response to the great gift that this unique day is, if you learn to respond as if it were the first day in your life and the very last day, then you will have spent this day very well. Begin by opening your eyes and be surprised that you have eyes you can open. That incredible array of colors that is constantly offered to us for pure enjoyment. Look at the sky. We so rarely look at the sky. We so rarely note how different it is from moment to moment with clouds coming and going. We just think of the weather. And even of the weather, we don't think of all the many nuances of weather. We just think of good weather and bad weather. This day, right now, is unique weather. Maybe a kind that will never exactly in that form come again. The formation of clouds in the sky will never be the same that is right now. Open your eyes, look at that. Look at the faces of people whom you meet. Each one has an incredible story behind their face. A story that you could never fully fathom. Not only their own story, but the story of their ancestors. We all go back so far. And in this present moment, on this day, all the people you meet, all that life from generations and from so many places all over the world flows together and meets you here like a life-giving water if you only open your heart and drink. Your heart to the incredible gifts that civilization gives to us. You flip a switch and there's electric light. You turn a faucet and there's warm water and cold water and drinkable water. It's a gift that millions and millions in the world will never experience. So these are just a few of an enormous number of gifts to which we can open your heart. And so I wish you that you will open your heart to all these blessings and let them flow through you. That everyone whom you will meet on this day will be blessed by you. Just by your eyes, by your smile, by your touch, just by your presence. Let the gratefulness overflow into blessing all around you. And then it will really be a good day.
Cool. So I really like that TED Talk. It's one of my favorite ones. To me, again, it just helps me remember to be grateful. Basically every day. No matter what happens, the good or the bad. So I think that's also important to remember. So that was teamwork. Next, I want to talk about leadership. And these are some of the strategies that the chapter gives some advice on. And to me, again, it's more simple truths. That's why I call them basically the lost arts, because it's stuff we all learn in kindergarten, and stuff we all grow up, people teach us and we know is good, but we forget. And so, number one, create a positive climate and a positive culture. And to me, that means a balance between fun and also being professional. So if you work for a Fortune 500 company, obviously you're going to err on the side of being professional. But here on a college campus, you really want to strike that balance. You want it to be fun, you want to enjoy your work, but you also want to be productive and be professional at the same time. The chapter also talks about putting energy and care into the team members. So a leader isn't just about the bottom line, isn't just about the results or making money or running meetings or doing Excel work. A leader is supposed to take care and look out for each of the team members and look out for their well-being and their wellness. And then lastly, the chapter talks about being vulnerable. And I think that's something, again, that's a lost art, is really just allowing yourself to be yourself and to be vulnerable. So there's a picture, I'm sure you guys have all seen Aladdin, but I think this is before maybe his first date with Jasmine or something. Basically, the advice on that is just be yourself. And so if you are feeling vulnerable, that's okay. And vulnerability, contrary to what we all think, is not a weakness. It's actually being healthy, and it's actually being honest. And for me, I'd rather have a leader or a team member who's vulnerable or struggling and lets me know than somebody who's maybe dishonest just because they're trying to hide that. So again, my advice there is just, be yourself. And the next, this image kind of captures what I think the difference between a boss and a leader is. So to me, a boss, again, if you work for a Fortune 500 company, you're about the bottom line. Maybe you want a boss, but I think, most places on a college campus, you really want a leader who's going to roll the sleeves up and, get in with the team members and do the work. Whereas you see the boss there is kind of more of a micromanager. So if you are in a leadership position, which I think many of you are, trying to find what that balance is and trying to be a leader more than a boss as much as you can. This is a mantra which I call the leader's duty or the leader's obligation. And again, it's not just to run the company, it's not just to run the meetings or the Excel sheets, but it's a responsibility to develop your team members and really look out for their health and for their wellness. And so the chapter calls these basically spiritual skills, and it's not necessarily religious, but it's more of skills that help inspire us, right? So skills that help motivate and facilitate positive personal growth. So some examples, and this can be in any team or any coach in sports or in any job, but basically motivating, empowering, and empowering equally so everyone gets an opportunity. Being inclusive, so everyone feels safe, everyone feels inclusive, everyone feels invited, and then providing purpose and meaning. So, this is why we're doing this, and really trying to inspire the team. And that's what I think that I look for in a leader, and I think a lot of team members really want that out of their leader as well. So example of some spiritual leaders throughout history and sports. Mother Teresa, awesome leader of compassion and love and understanding. And her quote here is, if you judge people, you have no time to love them. And that kind of goes back to the ego thing, and love is really important for a leader to basically care about the people you're working with. And then who's heard of John Wooden here? Anyone? Yeah. So famous basketball coach at UCLA. Really good motivator. He won a lot because he was able to encourage his team to play really inspired and play with passion. So his quote is just really awesome. It kind of goes back to the ego thing of losing your ego for the good of your teammates. And he says, a player who makes a team great is more valuable than a great player. Losing yourself in the group for the good of the group, that's teamwork. So yeah, two really awesome spiritual, or I guess inspirational leaders. So again, the title of the chapter is Thriving Together. And even though we're talking about leadership here, leadership isn't just for the leader, it's for all the team members, because team members really, are asked to be leaders as well. And so it's important to realize that no matter where you are in the team, that you're a big part of the leadership process. And especially the spiritual leader, the motivator, it doesn't always have to be the boss. It doesn't always have to be the supervisor. Maybe you have, a more extroverted, spiritual leader on your team, and it's not the boss, and that's totally fine. And actually, when it comes down to it, the highest functioning, healthy teams have multiple leaders and multiple spiritual motivators, which is that you actually want to share the workload. That way, people aren't getting burnt out. So basically, you want to be able to take turns doing that keep the team motivated. So again, like I said, I know a lot of you are in a leadership position here, so if you don't already have a leadership philosophy, I encourage you guys to start thinking about that. I want to share a few points from my personal leadership philosophy. Feel free to borrow them, try them out, see what works or maybe what doesn't work, because every team's different and every leader's different. But number one, be grateful, and every day is an opportunity, every day is a gift. When I walk into the rec center every day, the staff asks me how I'm doing, what's going on. I always tell them just another day on planet Earth, and I genuinely mean that and feel that. Every day is a gift, and I think trying to incorporate that into your work can go a long way. Team over self is important. Again, going back to the ego and trying to, just be aware of our ego and remove our ego. Number 4, slow down to catch up, I think is really important. So when you get a lot on your plate, again, in the world we live in, we try to go fast-paced and finish and stay up all night and do all the work, but that's going to lead to burnout and stress. And so when you have a lot on your plate, 1, ask for help, or 2, really slow down, because I promise you will actually catch up faster than if you try too hard. And then this next one is really probably one of my favorite quotes ever, and that is, to err is human and to forgive is divine. And so remembering that we're all human, your teammates are human, your supervisor's human, and we're going to make mistakes, and that's part of it. And so make sure you forgive them. And on that note, too, make sure you forgive yourself. A lot of times we're our hardest critic, so make sure you're able to forgive yourself when you make a mistake, because it's going to happen. And this next one, focus on what you can control. So again, as a society, we're very results-driven. We focus on the results, but a lot of times we can't control those things. So my mantra here is focus on your attitude. You can always impact that, and then focus on your effort. And then lastly, again, our society sees adversity and taking a loss as a bad thing, and they want to avoid that. But in reality, adversity is our greatest teacher. It's our greatest gift. For me, every job I didn't get, every interview that didn't work out, every sports team I got cut from, or every injury I had, it really makes us the person that we are today. And so, taking that adversity and turning it around can really be a positive thing. So now we're on phase 3 here. That was basically leadership in a nutshell, chapter 12, Thriving Together. This is now wellness in the workplace. Again, I think it's a very underrated thing. Again, our society kind of looks at results and fast pace, and wellness, unfortunately, takes a back seat. So we're going to focus on that. But basically, the health of a leader and a team is very important, especially the health of a leader. We have the fishbowl analogy of everyone's always looking at the leader, watching them, judging them. And so if the leader's healthy, that's going to impact the team for a positive. But if the leader starts to get burnt out or becomes unhealthy, that's going to impact the whole team in a negative. So definitely we want to prioritize wellness in our life. So yeah, why is wellness important, right? Basically, it's really simple. Healthy team members equals a healthy, functioning, productive team. It's important to know that one person's wellness, if they're not well, will impact the whole team for either positive or negative. So it's like the phrase, "You're only as strong as your weakest link." Remembering that. And why is this important? Number 1, we want to avoid burnout. Again, it's a long semester. Life's hard. Number 2, we want to create balance in our life. We don't want to just be employees. We also want to be, friends and citizens, and have a social life and be real people too. So trying to find that balance. And then eventually we want to thrive, right? We want to do well and as much as we can. But I'm going to say thrive temporarily. And I'm going to get into that in a second, but it's because I believe wellness is a constant cycle, and that you can never be floating up high every day. And also when you fall down low and have that adversity, you're going to bounce back up, and it's kind of the cycle and the nature of things. So thriving temporarily, I pulled this from the chapter. There was a student essay from an undergrad, I believe, at Michigan State, and Spartans, right? Rich man, yeah. But one week her grades were really good, but at the expense of sleep and diet. And then the next week she caught up on her sleep and was eating better, but then her personal life became a mess. And I'm sure this happens to you guys and happens to everyone, is like one day you're flying high and then back down low, and then you kind of recharge. And so that's just kind of the nature of things, the nature of life. And I think college presents students and all of us, who live and work here with conflicting schedules and you constantly have to prioritize, and it can actually be really difficult. So I think taking a second to acknowledge that and taking your wellness into account can be important. But basically, you guys are asked to do a lot, whether you're a student leader, you're also a student, you have to study, you want to graduate on time. You also are working, you have to eat, you have to sleep, you have to socialize, so you're asked to do all these things. And so slowing down and kind of taking a glance and a reflection at your wellness can really help you in the long run with your health. So anyone heard of the Maslow's hierarchy of needs? So basically, it's that pyramid there. So at the top, that's the goal, is what we all want to be: creative, spontaneous, have high self-esteem and self-confidence, and be functioning human beings. That's the goal of what all humans want. But the bottom line, the reality is that we can't even get halfway up the pyramid until we hit the very basic needs, the very basic level stuff. So breathing, food, water, sleep, homeostasis, which is body temperature, and stuff like that. And so I think it's, again, important to acknowledge that getting enough sleep can be hard, staying hydrated can be hard, and basic wellness stuff can actually be really hard. And we actually need to prioritize that more than we're doing. I think this picture kind of captures basically the fact that our work environments aren't as natural as humans are supposed to live. So yeah, I work in the rec center, which is awesome. There's sports equipment and basketball courts and all that, but the reality is I'm also on a computer a lot, and the reality is a lot of us are also on our phones a lot. And just as human beings, we spend a lot of time on the screen, sitting all day, and then just long hours and stress, outside commitments and obligations with school. And so again, if we're going to be honest with ourselves, realizing that sometimes the way we treat our body is actually sometimes unnatural, and so we need to try to balance that out. So kind of what my argument here is that we actually we live in an unbalanced world, and so basically the human body the human body was meant for the Paleolithic environment, which is basically you're outside in sunshine, you're not wearing shoes, you're not eating processed foods, you're not on a computer. You're basically outside 16, 18 hours a day. And human evolution for that was hundreds of thousands of years. That's how our ancestors lived. And the industrial society which we live in now, with the technology and all that, has only been 200 years. So a blimp, we're talking hundreds of thousands of years versus, a tiny fraction of that. So basically our body hasn't caught up to that. So, number one is that we live in an unbalanced world. But if we take the necessary steps, we can actually find balance in that and live in that world. So I'm going to cover some wellness strategies and techniques to try to help that. Number one, the chapter talks about spiritual renewal, which is something I call reflection, which is very important. Number two is a concept called downshifting, which basically is accomplishing more by doing less. Kind of cool, right? And then lastly, putting energy into your perspective and your attitude, because again, that's something you can control. So number one, the power of reflection, again, I think is a really lost art today in the world we live in. But basically finding time and space for that reflection and looking inward and see what's really going on with your body and with yourself. And again, we live in the age of distraction, so the more we're plugged in, the more we need to actually slow down and reflect and unplug. So this is the wellness wheel. I think we'll have some time at the end here, so we're going to fill that out. But the wellness wheel is basically a tool to gauge your health, to gauge your wellness, to see if you're balanced, so you can find out what areas you're doing well in, where you need to improve in. It also kind of helps you look inward. So this is one of my favorite tools. And again, wellness is a constant cycle, so I'll fill one of these out, or the staff at the rec center will do it. And one week you're doing well in one area, and then the next week it completely flips. So the more you do this reflection, the better you are aware of what's going on with your body and with your well-being in life. The chapter also talks about the cycle of sacrifice and renewal. And so leaders, or just hardworking team members like yourselves, sacrifice the needs of themselves for the good of the group. That happens all the time. And it's noble. We want that. We appreciate that. It's really awesome, but it's exhausting, and it can impact our wellness. And so the chapter discusses some strategies for survival, to kind of renew. So number one is personal time away. So take a vacation, or it could just be a weekend, or it could just be a Friday or day of off, and try to unplug and get away from everything. Can really help. For me, time and place for reflection is really important. For my life, I try to do this basically daily. So on my lunch break, I try to work out, or just, if it's a long day, just try to walk outside and take a break. And maybe you just, sit there and meditate and close your eyes. I mean, I feel like, we're so go, go, go as a society that how often would you stop and close your eyes and relax and, breathe. And it's kind of, again, a lost art, but it feels really good and it's good for your body. So, and I think the most important part with this is don't feel guilty, right? So don't feel guilty that you're taking a day off, or that you're taking a sick day. Listen to your body. And, ideally you want other team members to help you hold down the fort. It should be everyone sharing equally. So, this stuff's important. Do it, and don't feel bad about it. Listen to your body, not your ego. Again, we talk about the ego kind of makes us do certain things and feel certain emotions. Sometimes that's good, sometimes it's bad. A lot of times there's either internal or external pressures, so it could be kids or rent, social status, your reputation. I never had a sick day, now I don't want to, I don't want everyone to think I'm sick again, or I have a weak immune system. Like, no one cares about that, right? Like, really, you got to take care of yourself and your own health. And so listen to your body, right? Your body's never going to lie to you ever. Your ego will try to convince you of certain other things, but your body's never going to lie. So try to learn to take breaks, and start. Try to ask yourself these questions. Can this wait until tomorrow? Can somebody help me with this project? Do I need to do this alone? And oftentimes it's a simple answer, but we kind of talk ourselves out of it. We let our ego talk ourselves out of it. So yeah, try to listen to your body and your intuition for that stuff. Strategy number 2 is downshifting. I'm going to read the definition. So downshifting is a social behavior in which individuals live simpler lives to escape the rat race of obsessive materialism in order to reduce the stress that may accompany it. So again, we live in a busy world, go, 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 but basically what this says is slow down, less is more, and you're actually going to be happier by doing less. So kind of a cool thing. So number 1, part of the strategy is learning to say no, especially to your friends. Sometimes those are the hardest people to say no to, but it's important if you want to, again, prioritize your own health. There's a quote I like to say is under promise, over deliver. So never do anything you can't deliver on. And try not to overcommit to things, whether it's your personal life, your social life, your work life, or your physical life, and listen to your body basically. Again, we live in the age of distraction, so there's a picture of the thinker. I'm sure you guys have heard of him, but then he has like an iPhone, and unfortunately it's kind of the world we live in today. I want to share some scary numbers with you guys, but the average young adult spends almost 5 hours a day on their phone, and the average American spends almost 10.5 hours of screen time a day. And so again, there are benefits of this. We're connected, we can communicate with each other, we can learn stuff every day, and that's awesome. But again, the trade-off is, our bodies weren't meant to live like this, so if we want to take care of ourselves, we need to try to balance that out. So my advice on that is unplug and be human. Unplugging is going to help you slow down, it's going to help you reflect, it's going to help you be more present in your life, which is, really healthy. And so try to create certain times during your day, whether that's your lunch break. For me, it's first thing when I wake up. I try not to look at any technology, it's kind of my spiritual hour. When you're driving or exercising, do you really need the radio on? Do you really need, music when you're running? Maybe some of you do. But I encourage you to try it, especially, go for a run down the creek or go for a run outside and, just breathe and, listen. Sometimes you don't need the music. Sometimes it's better like that, more naturally. So. Then obviously before bed, if you are on the screen, it's going to affect your REM cycle and your dreams or whatever. So, I think, trying to unplug can be actually really, really healthy at certain times. And then lastly, perspective. And so again, our health is more important than any job or any grade or any class or anything, any amount of money. And so, you can't buy back your health. And so, prioritize that now while you're young. And don't forget the picture. Don't forget the big picture that health's important, and that life is rare. So, this is one of my favorite quotes by Robert Louis Stevenson. He says, "Don't judge each day by the harvest you reap, but rather the seeds that you sow." And so again, I think our culture again really focuses on the results, status, winning, wealth, gratification, that kind of stuff. But unfortunately, a lot of that stuff we can't even control, and so we're putting all that energy into something that we can't even became an impact. And so I encourage you to put your energy into the process, and so your attitude and your effort, try to do more of that. And then this is the last slide here, but again, it's another reminder to be grateful, and just that life is super rare. I think it was Carl Sagan said there's more stars in the universe than there are grains of sand on the whole planet Earth. So the universe is vast beyond measure. We can't even comprehend how big it is, yet life is so rare. And so try to bring an attitude of gratitude to work every day and to life every day, and I think it's really going to help you. So now, looks like we have a few more minutes here, 10 to 15 more minutes. So I want you guys to fill out the back side of your handout, which is the wellness wheel. So if you can flip it over, and basically what you're going to do is you're going to rate yourself on a scale of 1 to 10 and see how you're doing in each area. And if some of you need to leave or go to class in a few minutes, that's fine, but the rest of us are going to stick around, do the reflection, and then we'll do a quick Q&A. We're going to do a quick Q&A, but before that, does anyone, totally optional, does anyone want to share anything they put on their wheel of something they want to improve on and do better? And a lot of times, maybe, yeah, does anyone want to share? Does anyone feel comfortable? Want to do that? If not, that's totally fine. We can go right into the Q&A. Yeah.
Something I said that I didn't on was the financial aspect.
Okay. Anything, any ways you could do that? Anyone have any advice? Any advice on how you could do that better?
Budgeting monthly or something that can help.
Budgeting monthly, yeah, it's a good one. Cool. Anyone else want to share their wheels? Yeah. Occupational, it could be your job right now, how you're feeling, or it could be your career in general. Yeah, does anyone have any other questions on different parts of the wheel? Is there a question over there? Do you want to share your wheel?
I think I'll share some of my wheel, yeah.
Cool.
Environmental, I just feel like I should be spending more time out in nature instead of spending time in my dorm room. So that's what I feel I can improve on.
Yes, that's an important one. I want to talk about that one too. Environmental is actually twofold. So environmental is, are you obviously are you recycling? Are you being outside? But it's also could be your work environment. It could be your living situation, and is that healthy? And so kind of take all that into consideration. Anyone else want to share this one?
I put financial as my low because I'm always having to spend money for educational stuff. So I have my occupation, education, or intellectual, business, I can go out and
Right.
And then financial is very low. Even though I do live a lot, I just take a lot of that money towards educational stuff and towards my living.
Yep, that makes sense, and I feel like a lot of us are probably in that same boat, right? Anyone else want to share their wheel? Sweet. Any questions? Oh, any allergies? Yeah, I have them too. Anyone have any questions about anything? It could be anything in the presentation. It could be something about the wellness wheel, or just any general questions for me, or anything at all. Yeah.
What is your wheel like?
So my wheel is a constant, kind of a constant struggle. My wheel's a little different too. I've added a spoke that says nature on there, kind of like what you said with environmental. I've also added a family one on there. So right now, I think my, I would say I think my my physical one isn't that good because I've had really bad allergies the last couple of days, and so what's happening is the weather's really awesome, and I want to go outside and go hiking or playing disc golf, and I do, and then my allergies have been really crummy, so that's kind of been hard to balance. Also, my My intellectual spoke is really low. I have all these books and inspirations and stuff to read, but I just haven't had time because work's been busy and because, I've taken care of family and stuff. So, yeah, I think those are areas I need to improve. My family one's doing good. Like I said, I live with my nieces, and so that's really rewarding. I kind of describe that as symbiotic. It's good for them to have someone, and it's really healing for me to to help do that, and it kind of adds a lot of purpose to my life. So yeah, that's kind of me right now. Any one last one, and then I'll let you guys go. Any general questions, or you guys want to go? All right, take care. Thanks for coming.